I'm Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and in this video I'm going to do a quick product review for you. Some of the products that I used this year during bow hunting season. To start off, I did most of the season with one of my older Hoists this year, and I bought a new Montana Black Gold Revenge sight. Now this sight, you can get it with a dovetail or the standard bracket. I went with the standard because it sits a little bit closer to the riser, and I hunt with my quiver on the bow, so it basically helps hold the quiver closer to the bow, which is what I wanted. So I went with that bracket, but you can get the dovetail. The micro adjust features are good. It's Allen wrench screw, and then you twist the knob one way or the other to move the sight back and forth, up or down. For the individual sight pins, it's an Allen wrench screw, and then there's a dial here where you can spin the dial and it'll move the pin up and down. So it helps when you're trying to fine-tune your pins at those longer distances. I'd say the biggest drawback to this sight is the light system. I actually did a whole video on how to improve the way the pins light up from this, but it really annoyed me that I had to spend all that money for the sight, and then I had to buy the bracket and the sight on top of that just to have a sight, which you need in a lot of cases when you're hunting in a ground blind and things like that. The second and third axis level adjustment works really well. So I like the sight. It's real durable. The pins are really strong, which was an issue I've had with other sights. So overall, I would recommend the sight if you want a nice durable sight. There's just those couple little things that I didn't like, with having to buy the light, and then I had to do some modifications to get the pins to light up well. Now at the end of the season, I bought a Expedition Eccentric 7 bow, which is what I'm holding now, and rather than take the sight off of that, I wanted to keep that active in case I needed it, and I wanted to try a different sight. So I bought the Trophy Ridge React Pro sight. It's tool free, and the tool free adjustments work pretty well. One thing I noticed is I had the tool free adjustments cranked tight so that it didn't move, and then I went to spin the dial to get it ready to make an adjustment, and the whole sight system moved. So even though I had this tightened, it wasn't enough to keep it from moving. So if you do have one of these or decide to use one, really got to crank hard to make sure your sight doesn't move. And the way I discovered that is when you do make an adjustment, like say you need to go left to right, so you loosen it and then you spin the dial for that micro adjustment, it'll actually take a few turn clicks before it starts to engage. If the last time you made an adjustment was to bring the whole sight system that way, and now you need to go back this way, at least with the one I have on this bow, I had to go like about 3 clicks before it engaged and started moving the other way. So there was one time I went to make an adjustment, I kept doing clicks. I'm like, why isn't it making any difference with the shot? And that was why. So the way I tried to compensate for that was, while it was still tight, I tried to get those 3 clicks out of the way so it engaged right away, and it wasn't tight enough, and that's how I moved. So anyway, the sight does come with a light on it, and there's 4 green pins and 1 red on this one, and the green pins light up so much that it dwarfs the red, so that's a little bit of a drawback. But other than that, the sight's pretty good. One drawback to it that I don't like, and I didn't know I wasn't going to be able to do, is if you look at all the pins, my 60-yard pin is almost in the middle of the sight, and my level's way down here. The way I normally like to set my sights up, if you look at my black gold one, is I like my 30-yard pin to be right around the middle and my 60 down closer to the level. And that way it's easier for me in my vision to see the level when I'm aiming. So with the 20-yard pin so far up to the top of the sight, it's a lot harder for me to see it. I actually have to take my eye off the pin to look down and make sure my bow is level. I would have liked it if I could move the 20 pin closer to the middle and still have the whole sight work the way it's supposed to, but that 20-yard pin is set. You can't move it any farther down in the housing. So you have it way up there, and if you're like me, your 60-yard pin's kind of right in the middle, it's just not effective for that aspect of aiming with the level. Other than that, it's a pretty nice sight. Moving on, I use this Limb Saver quiver. It was fairly inexpensive. It's light. That was the biggest thing that I was looking for, something light. But in order to be light, there's a lot of plastic components. And one thing I noticed is when I was in the tree stand, let's see, of course it's not doing it real clearly now, but it would squeak a lot. Like if my arrows bumped me, the whole system would squeak, and so I had to be careful to not let my arrows touch me. There's a little bit of a squeak right there. There it is. Hear that? So I'd be in my tree stand and bump my, if I had my bow in my hand, I'd bump my arrows against me, it would squeak. And of course you don't want that noise when you're in the tree stand. So it's an okay quiver, but you really got to be careful to, if you keep it on your bow like I do, not let it touch you, otherwise you could have noise that you don't want in the tree stand. Lastly, I'll mention, or the last two things I'll mention is I used the Ripcord Ace arrow rest this year, and I really liked it. It worked really well for me. I never had any problems with it. For a stabilizer, I used the Apex carbon core. It sets off to the side, and as you know, I like to hunt with the quiver. Let me show you with the quiver on the bow. So it helps to offset the weight of the quiver when you have it set off to the side like that. I liked it. It worked out well for me. Going into the season, I wanted to use the Scott Silverhorn release. I ended up using my True Ball Fang again, just because it was another expense that I had to cut corners somewhere, and so I just didn't get the new release. But I still am not the biggest fan of this particular release, and I will be probably getting the Scott Silverhorn in the future. It just hasn't happened yet. So that's an overview of what I used this year. I did use like a sling on my Hoyt. I have a nice sort of camoed colored sling, and when I got this bow, I needed to get one, and the only thing they had were these. These are more for like 3D shoots. So this one's kind of white and green. I didn't particularly want to put that on a hunting bow, but that's all I had, and I needed it for taking it out the last couple hunts of the year. The bow itself, the Expedition, it's a really fast bow. It's faster than my Hoyt, and pretty quiet. It's a nice bow. It tunes really nice. I did a video on how to tune these, so I do like the tunability of them. It's pretty nice. That's just it. That's an overview of some of my hunting products on my bows. There's one last thing I want to review, and I've had this for about 20 years. This Bow Hoist, and it's kind of big, it's kind of bulky, and it's actually a little bit heavy. It is durable though. But I picked up this HSS Bow Hoist. It's lighter and smaller and everything else, and it's actually the longer. But there's like a clip that you can put on your belt, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to put that on my belt and have it like pop off when I'm 3/4 of the way up climbing a tree. So I, put a little carabiner on there to clip on to stuff. Problem is, I had to stop using it because when the line comes out, after it gets about halfway out, it starts to squeak. The plastic components in there start to squeak real bad, and it makes a lot of noise. And then when you're winding it up, it's squeaking, and you don't want to be making any extra noise when you're trying to get set up for a hunt, because deer can hear really well and they'll pinpoint you, and that could ruin your hunt. So I liked it because it was lighter and smaller, but I had to stop using it because it started to make those squeak noises, and I went back to the old one that I've had. And so there you have it. There's a little rundown of a couple things I used this year and some feedback on them. Hope that helps you when you're thinking about what products to use in the future. Till then, take care. God bless.